The other day, an article by Kirk McKeon at The Gamer reported that Dying Light developer studio Techland is going through a lot of problems currently, and have been for a while. An interview was conducted with 10 current and former Techland employees, who all stated issues of their own about the toxic work environment they faced. The company's management has had a heavy effect on the morale and workflow of its employees, of course, meaning it's affecting the development of Dying Light 2. Allegedly, at least 20 staff have left Techland in the last 2 months. A lot of the issues stem from poor communication as well as harsh demands from the higher-ups at Techland, led by CEO Paweł Marchuka. Apologies if I butcher that name or any others in this video. Techland has a certain agenda, and when it doesn't align, issues occur, according to a source at The Gamer with, quote, "Whenever an expert starts advising things that are not aligned with the board's agenda, they slowly get isolated from the project and responsibilities. That leads them to eventually leaving the project or getting fired. To make a career at Techland, you have to be subservient," unquote. CD Projekt Red is another Polish developer who's faced allegations similar to the ones here. I would say to take this with a grain of salt, but with this many sources, I'd personally say to come to your own conclusions and wait to hear from Techland. Techland eventually brought in Mark Almanet, a 30-year industry veteran at Ubisoft, whom was brought in to restructure the studio's design process, but in the end was unable to convince the management on a new structure. If you followed news about Techland in the past couple months, you'd know Techland veteran Paweł Zawadny, who worked as a software developer, left the studio. Apparently, he attempted to make the workflow easier by replacing the studio's procedures with a more traditional development system, using either Unreal Engine or Unity, which according to the article was denied, which eventually led to a falling out between the developer and the CEO and led him to leaving the company. Zawadny eventually went on to found his own development studio, which was acquired by CD Projekt Red shortly after. Paweł Zawadny went on to say, quote, "After decades of creating titles that were dictated by so-called market demand, we all reached a point when we decided to do something different. Something that comes from us. We also felt that the way the industry giants work is outdated. We want to adapt to a new way of working and fostering teamwork. An evolutionary approach described as teal, where there are no predefined hierarchies or roles. It's time that we change the industry from the inside," unquote. Paweł Zawadny leaving the studio was a bitter pill for Techland's CEO to swallow, according to the article by The Gamer. This was made worse by the fact that he ended up at CD Projekt Red, a company the CEO's allegedly, quote, "laser focused on," unquote. Another claim says, and I quote, "His infatuation with CD Projekt Red is borderline unhealthy," unquote. The CEO, in response to the allegation, stated with, quote, "Trust and the flow of ideas in a large organization is a complex issue. After all, you can trust someone but not agree to their idea because it is not, for example, the right moment to implement it or does not fit the certain project," unquote. Another source says the current workflow of Techland is, quote, "a production pipeline that changes so quickly and rapidly that it might as well not exist," unquote. Another issue staff at the studio apparently face is the CEO's demand for game features to be based in existing games. Quote, "One of his super strict rules for design is that an idea can't be implemented if it doesn't have an existing reference from another game," unquote. The studio apparently also has a problem with benchmarking against the competition, and is something the CEO admits to. Coming from a review from a former Techland employee on a job site known as Glassdoor, quote, "There is nothing wrong with benchmarking the competition, but at Techland it goes beyond any logical threshold," unquote. And from another review, quote, "You are very often being asked or rather expected to show references of competitors' work before your own. It often ends up with simply redoing what others did, which has nothing to do with the creativity that the company is so big about. Not to mention how it affects people's morale when they are not being trusted at all when it comes to their skills and creativity," unquote. At Techland, the studio's HR manager is the CEO's wife, which in my eyes makes it difficult to voice your concerns about certain topics. Along with that, coming from the article, the CEO is an ideas man, and he has had some interesting ideas to promote Dying Light 2. One was planning to drive an unmarked van down to the Mexican border and offload a pile of body bags, which would eventually reveal itself to be part of the game's marketing campaign. According to The Gamer, as well as an article by IGN, Dying Light 2 is currently being worked on by the 6th iteration of the narrative team. The constant change of writers, one being Chris Avellone, means the story is, quote, "Frankenstein's monster," unquote, of stitched together ideas from different teams. In response to the issue of high staff turnover, the CEO told The Gamer, quote, "Making games is tough, and it is normal that sometimes there is a need to change the workplace and look for new challenges. I am very sorry that some of our employees left us and decided to find their way outside the structures of Techland, but I always wish them the best," unquote. End quote. It's natural that I pay attention to what others in our industry are doing, so when talking about examples of high quality solutions, I often refer to CD Projekt Red. Unquote. Yikes. And I thought the alleged toxicity at Techland in June couldn't get any worse, but here we are. Nearly 3 months into 2021, we haven't heard a thing about Dying Light 2 besides negativity. This is all an unfortunate reality we have to face, but we may never get to see this game, or at least in the form we saw and hoped for. Anyways, that's kind of all I have to say about this topic. All we can really do right now is just wait to see what Techland says. Anyways, I hope I was able to inform you all today. My name is Ty, and thanks for listening to what I had to say. Thanks.